Hello and welcome, this is Mouse Gunner, and I'm going to be doing a first impression video of a game called Avorion. Now, full disclosure, I did receive a key for this game from the developer. Now, what is Avorion? It is a Minecraft-style building and exploration game, and I think the game that I'm going to be drawing reference to the most in this video is Space Engineers, because it is the most similar in theme, being a space science fiction game with that building and exploration theme. And just like Space Engineers, you're going to be going around mining resources so that you can build ship parts. And the big difference, though, is that you play a ship, not a person in this universe. You don't float around and mine the resources yourself. Instead, you drive some kind of ship. Starting out the game, if you're playing a new game, you're going to be a little drone. And then once you build your ship, you're going to be in the ship. But the ship that you control can do a lot of the same things a drone can do. As a matter of fact, it can do a lot more than drone can do. So once you have a ship, there's no real reason outside of if you want to be this little tiny ship that maybe is a little bit more maneuverable to mine resources, there's no real reason to ever go back into that little drone. Now, I do have a laundry list of complaints. I have played this game for a couple hours just to familiarize myself with the game. And the first complaint I have is pretty obvious here, and that is the visuals of the game. It looks like a game that was made, I would say, in the late 90s or early 2000s. We have some pretty rough visuals. Now, I have this on a 16:9 resolution. It is 1080p, at least according to the settings, but I'm not sure if I really necessarily believe that because my recording software was not really, it was a little bit confused with it, so I'm not really sure if it's 1080p, but in any case, it's supposed to be 1080p, but as you can see, some pretty jagged lines here, some really rough textures. The visuals are pretty old school looking. Now, that doesn't necessarily turn me away from a game if the gameplay itself is compelling. And the other thing I will point out, and this is a complaint I've had right away as we jump into the game here. Now, I just started up a game, and I'm going to go ahead and load it up because it does take quite a while to build things up in this game. I feel like it's a little bit on the grindy side. But one thing I would like to say as far as the game goes is this is a game that, in my opinion, is not that easy to just pick up easily. And a lot of that is because, first off, the tutorial in the game just really doesn't cover much. It doesn't cover, there's a basic tutorial. And one thing that I have, I think, active is there's going to be pop-ups that give me hints. Now, I have closed a lot of them out. And this is also an early access, I will point out. And it appears, I'm not sure if this is loading in or not, because it says press spacebar to continue, and I've hit the spacebar. Oh, there we go. All right. So for a second there, I thought we were going to crash out there. I have seen this game crash, so just be aware that is something that can happen. So loading in here, I already have a ship. So this is the ship that I've built. And I also was recently in a combat, so you see that little bit of debris off to the side. That was a ship that I had combat with. But as I was saying, there is a tutorial, but it really doesn't cover a lot of the aspects of the game. A lot of aspects you would think a tutorial would cover. Now, it is in early access, so they can always develop that tutorial further. But at least as far as I'm concerned, it's still not a very easy game to follow. And also, on top of that, you have a UI that is not necessarily the most straightforward or easy to understand. Now, because I was just in combat, I picked up some items that I'm going to want to build with really, soon. But just to give you an idea of some of the aspects of the game and some things that maybe I'm not a big fan of. First off, outside of the visuals, I'm not really a big fan of ship designs in this game. So right here, we've got a repair dock. Now, that looks like a space station to me, and that's because it is. But some of these other things, like this, for instance, this is a frigate, but it looks like a space station to me. The ship designs are just, they're not really, they're really not all that interesting, and they don't really look like ships a lot of the times. I mean, if you really come in here, maybe you can kind of make out that it's a ship, but it really doesn't look all that different from the space stations here. So sometimes differentiating a ship, and maybe this is just the particular alien race or whatever that I happen to spawn in here. It is procedurally generated, and the universe and everything. So there is some elements of that. But as I was saying, this is a ship over here, even though it looks exactly like a space station. And the ship that I blew up here, very similar with these kind of like long poles or whatever coming off. So not really all that inspired ship design is a thing that I'll say. But in any case, things that you do in this game. So if I look around here, this is a pretty cluttered area. This is kind of my starting area. And these guys around me that are in green, they are green because they're allied to me. I think blue is neutral, and then red are enemies or people that have poor relationship with you. Now these guys were brighter green, but I think I killed, there was somebody jumped in that was red, and I just assumed that I could freely attack them. And I think in that particular instance, it made them a little unhappy with me, so they've gone from a brighter green to kind of an in-between. So you do get a kind of scaling indicator of what your relationship is depending on how green it is, how blue it is, how red it is. Kind of gives you an indicator of how friendly they are. But in any case, all of these green boxes you see all around my screen are ships. So if I middle mouse button on them, I get an indicator in the lower right corner of what they are, how far away they are on my screen there. So it's about 35 kilometers away. And, you know, you get some basic information about relations and what have you. Velocity and a bunch of other information. And the same is true about space stations. So this one here, you've got, well, actually, no, that's a Corvette. See how easy it is to get confused with space stations? There we go. This is a space station. So this space station here is also shown here, and oftentimes the little icon here also gives you an indicator of what type of space station it is. So over there, I can't really see it because there's asteroids, but there's that little anchor that is a shipyard. This is a commodity trader, so that has a little resource, or actually resource trader, and I can talk to them if I press F. Now, you have some options here. A lot of the things you can't do unless you dock. So if I go to trade materials and I try and buy some iron, for instance, or maybe I want some titanium and I hit buy. Well, first I have to say how many. Let's say I say 5 and I hit buy. It will say you must be docked to the station to trade. So to do that, we're just going to have to fly over to the station. And because I have the station highlighted, once I get close enough, the docks will start showing up. And I just have to go up to where the little green dock is. And you actually have to face it, like what I'm doing right now. And sometimes that can be hard to figure out exactly the facing of the dock. But now I see that that is highlighted green, so I can hit F to dock. Same communication screen comes up. And now I can trade those materials if I wanted to. So I could buy 5 titanium if I wanted to. And then it would cost me however many credits. Here's my resources right now. So I have a lot of iron, but not so much titanium, and I have a fair amount of credits, so I could probably very easily buy this. Hey, why not? Let's go ahead and buy some. Alright, well, it's not working, but that's okay. So that's pretty much all I can do with the space station. I can also hire crew, but I am currently full up on crew. And then as far as resources go, how did I get all that iron? Well, I mined for it. So we see this rock over here. This is an iron rock. So what I'm going to want to do is come over to it and mine it. So I have some weapons and I have a mining drill. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my weapons so it's just the mining drill. And once I get close enough to the rock, that icon will turn green. And I'll know that I'm in range. I also don't want to run into it, so I'm just... There we go. So I just do that, and I'm going to slowly break up the rock. As you can see, the health bar deteriorate. A bit of the rock just got broken up, and then a bunch of iron goes into my inventory. And we can see that happening over on the lower right. We can see that I'm getting more and more iron as I mine this. Now, I haven't really checked out the distress signals and other things that pop up throughout the game, but I'm assuming that they're procedurally generated, and it kind of gives you some objectives to go and do while you're out in the game world. And the mining of this is pretty simple. You just mine, and then a block more or less gets destroyed, and then it pumps out iron. And if you're in proximity, or close enough to the resources as they pop up, they get sucked into your ship. It's pretty straightforward. And again, pretty simple textures and shapes here. I mean, the game very much looks and plays like a much older game. And you can have more than one mining beam at a time, and that will speed up the process. But I'm currently limited by how many of the turrets I could have on my ship at any given time. But once we're done with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the building mechanics. Now, I will point out right now, and see that little bit of iron in front of me? It's like an orange item that is like giving off this radiation. That is iron, but I wasn't close enough to it when it spawned. It popped out of that rock for it to get sucked in, so we're just gonna drive over there, and it should get sucked in. There we go. And that's one thing that's kind of annoying about this game, is that the fact that you have to oftentimes drive into items to get them, but yet there's no indicator on your map of where they are. So if there's a bit of iron that you mined out and you didn't see it pop off, there's nothing on your HUD that shows it anywhere. And maybe there is some kind of item that you can get at some point in the game that enhances that. So if I come over to systems here, I can see that I have a scanner and I have an object detector. Now, I don't know how reliable this object detector is, but it's supposed to let me know if there's valuable resources nearby. And I don't really know what is classified as valuable or not. Again, the game doesn't give you very good feedback. But I have a number of slots here, and I also have another slot that could be unlocked if I made my ship a certain size. I'm assuming it's a size. So if I got a volume of that much, then I could have a third slot. Now, I am going to want to add on these turret control systems, because one problem I have right now is that I have reached a cap of how many turrets I can use, and I have a lot of weapons in my inventory that I currently cannot equip to the ship. Now, one thing I was going to mention here, and I will point out now, is there will be some editing as I get into the ship builder, because every so often the game will autosave the ship that you're working on, and it will show up the directory of the file that it is going to be saving into. And I don't want you guys to see that, because it does have personal information for me, so I will be editing that out. So you'll probably see a big black ugly box. Well, that's why it's there. In any case, let's go ahead and get into the shipbuilding right now. So I'm in the shipbuilder, and we have a lot of UI elements here. And unfortunately, none of which are really explained. As a matter of fact, you can see some elements of the UI is actually on top of HUD elements here. And this is a big problem with this game, is that there will be items over top HUD elements, and oftentimes you'll have issues with that. So for instance, let's say I hit this so I can see more inventory items. Now, if I'm not careful here and I don't hit this X precisely, and I accidentally hit maybe building mode behind it, what happens? I pop out of the building mode rather than hit the X. And this can be like pixel perfect sometimes. So you might see me struggle with this a little bit as I'm trying to hit this X, and I very, just slightly click on one of these HUD elements behind it. That can be really frustrating with the game, and I've had some problems with that. But also you have all these UI elements, and honestly, a lot of this stuff, there's no tooltips for it, and you might be able to figure it out just by deduction. But one thing that I had I was a little bit confused with for quite a while is the number of turrets I could use. So my starting ship, 2 of 2, and I couldn't figure out, it's like, why can't I build more turrets? I have them in my inventory. As a matter of fact, my starting setup after I did the tutorial was to have 2 guns and 2 mining lasers. Well, I can't actually use those because I have a cap of 3 turrets total, and only 2 of which can be combat oriented. And I have a bunch of combat weapons. So if I come in here, these are all weapons I could slot onto my ship, but I am at my cap. So that's why I'm more than likely going to be upgrading my ship with those systems. But to go over the shipbuilding mechanics, I know for a fact I'm going to need energy to run that ship system. So just to show really quickly some of the HUD elements here is Down here at the bottom, which I'm showing with my mouse, and a big element of this game is that you hold in the shift key and you can use your mouse, because to activate some HUD elements, you have to use your mouse, which is kind of awkward at times. But in any case, we have a number of bars here. And the top bar here is how much energy that I am using. So the more full this bar is, the more energy I'm using. So if this bar was pretty empty, that means I'm producing a lot of energy and I'm not really using it. But once you get to a point where the bar is full, you're going to start burning through the next bar, which is your battery backup. So I can show really quickly here what the issue is once I add on these turrets, because they take up a lot of power. So let's slot in the 2 turret slots and we'll close out here. And we'll see the bar is now completely full. And as I do things, at least, yeah, see the battery starting to deplete. That's obviously not a good situation to find ourselves in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into that item and I'm just going to pull out at least one of the turrets so that we're not using all of our power. So in the initial stages of the game, the only power resource that I had, or the only power I could get, were these solar panels. And that's because of the resource that I have a lot of, the iron. That was the only resource I started with. So we come back into the builder. First off, because of that module that I have one of them, now I see that my turrets have been upgraded. I have more unarmed turrets and armed turrets that I can utilize. But as I was saying, if we come over to the builder, these are the blocks you can build, but they're divided by what resource you're using. So right now, these are our iron blocks. And if I go through here and I look at the blocks and see what they are, so we've got hull. That's pretty basic. It's just a hull slot that really doesn't do anything. We have an engine. This is your main form of forward propulsion. I guess you can use it for rear propulsion too. I've never really tried that. We've got just a more dense stone or ironstone block. You've got a cargo bay, crew quarters, and this is how you get more crew on your ship. Thrusters, this is how you slow down and also turn your craft. And then you have a directional thruster that only is in one direction. This is in every direction that is possible with how you built it. Gyro array, you know, it gives you an idea of what a lot of these things do. But if we keep going through here, we can see that the only thing that gives me power is the solar panels, at least as far as the iron is concerned. A lot of these other things are just structural components. But if we scroll down to another item here, to titanium, we can see there are a few more blocks that weren't available when I was under iron. So we have energy container, we have generator, which is what we're going to be building here because I need more energy. And we have a field generator. So this is going to give you a shield. So these things you need titanium for, but I didn't have titanium at the time. So also we have an indicator that pirates are attacking the sector. I might pop out of the shipbuilder and just show you guys combat here real quickly so you can at least get an idea of that. So we're going to look around for the red indicators, which we see right here. And these guys are bad. So we're going to get in range of the weapons. I would have liked to have built up my ship before getting into this, but more or less I get in range of my weapons and I just fire away. And the weapons I have are not particularly damaging, as we can see, but they're rapid fire, so they, you know, they do damage at a rapid rate. And we just sit here and we hose the guy down. Pretty simple combat, not having a lot of depth, but at the moment I really only have a couple weapon systems available, so that's an issue too. This guy's look like he's fairly close. Let's fire on him. And if I took any damage, I'd also be able to repair, which it doesn't look like they're really focusing on me. So I'm not really having to worry about it too much, but we see a health bar there. Once that health bar is depleted, the ship will be destroyed. Even if there is still ship left necessarily, once you get that health bar depleted, the ship is destroyed enough that it disables it. And we're almost done with this guy. There we go, and we get some improved relations that popped up there. Let's click on this guy. So this guy's a bigger ship, but as you can see, with these ship designs, they're mostly just... Oh, this is a little bit different. This actually looks somewhat more like a ship. Well, let's hose this guy down. He's a little bit smaller of a ship, so we're doing a lot of damage and wrecking him pretty quickly here. Okay, down he goes. And you see this green item that just popped off his ship. This is an item that I can drive through and collect. So I've just got that, whatever that item is. We also have that item over here in white that I could also pick up. And these are just different ship systems. You see the little gold glowing. That is currency. So if I move over that, I pick that up as well. Just like when you're mining. If you get close enough to it, it gets sucked up. So if we drive towards the gold, it eventually will get sucked up. And we'll get a little bit of currency here. But as I said, there's no indicator on the map that these things exist. So if you're not paying close attention or you lose track of where this wreckage is, it's very easy to miss out on the loot. I think also you can continue to shoot ships and break them up a little bit more and maybe knock some more ship systems off, but obviously you have to continue to hammer away at the wreckage. There might be a way to salvage the wreckage, maybe with an item that you get later, but not anything that I've encountered yet. So in any case, now that we've done combat and you've seen kind of how that works, let's go ahead and go back into the shipbuilding and give ourselves some more weapons so that we have a little bit more capabilities. Oh, you know what? I think I accidentally... No, I think I was okay. For a second there, I thought I had my weapon group set up wrong. The weapon groups are just above the energy bar, 1 and 2, and you can set those up yourself, and we'll do that once I get more weapon systems on here. Alright, so let's get back into the builder. So what I'm going to want to do is get one of these generators. So I'm going to go ahead and just click that, and then I'm going to click the X, and we can place that down. And I'm going to have to size it too so that I can actually afford it, because right now I only have 58 titanium, and I don't have a lot to spend. So what I'm thinking here is I'm going to delete this section of my ship, and I'm going to put the generator here, but I'm going to want to resize it. So how you resize things is you either hit a combination of the A, S, D, and W keys to size things in certain directions. So if I want to make this not so wide, I just drag it a little bit, and we make it not so wide. And I think we're now to like kind of a standard size here. So I'm going to go ahead and plop that down right about there. And I think I'm going to want to protect that as well so it doesn't get blown up. So I'm going to go ahead and grab not titanium, iron armor. So select that. But I don't want it so thick, so I'm going to go ahead and it's just drag your mouse, change the size. So we've got a armor wall. You know what? Make it easier on myself. We're going to use mirroring here. So we can choose what axes we want. I'm going to say x-axes. So whatever we do on this side will get copied on the other side. Having mirror options is really convenient for games like this. And you can do the same thing with Y and Z axis or what have you. And then after that, I think we come in behind here and we armor that up. So let's start at the top here. I'm going to want this, I think, shorter but wider. There we go. So we have a little bit of a armor protection. And then I want to make this taller. Oh, maybe not that tall. There we go. Right like that. You know, alternatively, what I can do is grab a slope armor piece. Let's do that. And we'll fit that in. And the same principle here. So you hit the keys to find the dimension you want to alter. So now we have that armored up. And we're going to still need to armor the front. So I'm going to remove this section here. And we will grab, again, the square block. And there we go. I accidentally hit the button. And that is the thing that I'm going to be editing out as well. Your ship's plan is autosave to so-and-so. That's what it says there before I blocked it out. Okay. So iron armor. And we're just going to find the dimensions we're going to want to I'm going to make it thin there. We're going to make it tall so that it covers the area well. And I think it's not quite... There we go. That's what I want. So now we have an armor block around our generator, so the generator's not going to get blown up easily. Something just strike my ship. Alright, and then another thing I'm going to want to do, just for visual appeal, is come back in and do iron framework, and we're going to move this around a little bit just to make it fit in with the theme that I have. This is more visual styling than anything else. Okay, I can't quite fit it in the way I want, so we're going to have a little bit of a gap there that looks kind of ugly, I guess, but that's okay. So now we have that generator. Let's see how the power works for our ship now. So we come back out. We see we have a little bit more of a bar to work with, so let us install that other turret mod. Oh, energy to shield converter. But I don't have a shield, so I don't know if that matters. So let's see how our energy is doing now. We're still overburdened, so one of those turret things consumes a lot of energy. And we're going to need that energy for guns. Well, you know what? For now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to only have one of these extra turret things. We have the other one in storage, so we can always benefit from that later. And we'll build on some more guns here. So I kind of have this set up so that the guns are forward. I'm going to go ahead and remove this one mining laser for now. And let us grab the whatever guns we want to use. So these are the guns that I have. And I'm going to have to take a number of factors in. So we've got damage, fire rate, accuracy, range, and so on. So if we take a look at this one, we see that it does a lot more damage than the turret that I was just looking at. And this was one of the starting weapons that I had from the beginning. But we see that it does more damage, but the fire rate is almost a sixth of this one. So you have to factor in the damage difference. This is still probably worth it, even though it's pretty slow firing. It still does pretty good damage, so that might be one we want to pick up. We go through here. This one does more than double the damage, and the fire rate's pretty good. I mean, it's slower, but it's pretty good still. We come over here. Now, see, this is significantly slower. Oh, okay, that's a mining, so ignore that. That's just a mining turret. Okay, so fire rate is about 30, so it does less damage, maybe a little bit more accurate, and a little bit longer ranged. Oh, the range of this is terrible, though. I just now noticed that, so I probably don't want to use that. This one still looks like a good weapon, though. And we come over here. Fire rate very slow. Damage. Yeah, see, that's not really worth it, in my opinion. Fire rate really slow. Yeah. A lot of these are really slow fire rate. And again, I don't know how procedurally generated these are, and I've not really seen anywhere where you can buy these. Now, maybe there is somewhere where you can buy these. And this is another mining turret, so we mostly just want the chain guns. Well, I definitely want this one, so I'm going to go ahead and select it. And I think I'm going to want to put it on top. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this turret and put this one in its place. So now we're going to go ahead and... Now, we did take damage, so there must be something going on. Well, I can see how the repair mechanic works. So a section of our ship got blown up, which is what this indicator is telling me. And when I hit repair, it shows me what has been destroyed, and then you just click on it and it rebuilds it, and it shows you the cost of rebuilding it. So something happened. There must have been pirates or something that jumped in and they shot me a little bit, or something happened that did a little bit of damage to me while I was in the builder. There is no pausing when you have this stuff going on, so be mindful of that. All right, and then I think we're going to go and slap on these other chain gun turrets. We only have slots for 2 more, so I'm going to put them one there and one there. Now it's saying here I don't have enough crew for the turrets. That's okay. We will get crew or, you know, move crew around. I do have extra crew, so we'll have to see. And I might have to upgrade how many crew I have, so that is something that we might be doing here in the near future. All right, so let's go ahead and get our mining turrets now. So I just want to see what the difference is. So we've got range of 0.75, range of 0.75, fire rate is... Okay, so these ones are just clearly better from what I can see. Although this does get a plus 30% damage, and it has independent targeting, but deals less damage. Interesting. Oh, we'll go ahead and just slap these suckers on. I don't see a reason of why we need independent targeting. So we're going to want to put the turrets somewhere. And I don't see a reason why not to put them right here. Oh, ship does not support more of this turret. That's actually surprising because I thought we had 2 slots to work with. And then again, I don't know where that slot went. And sometimes it can be a little bit confusing, but... Okay, I guess we're only going to get 1 mining turret, but that's okay. I'd rather have the weapons allocated to... I mean, I'd rather have turrets allocated to damage rather than mining. Alright, I'm trying to think of where I want this. I think I'm still going to put it in the same spot. It is kind of not very symmetrical, but that's okay. Alright, crew slots. Well, first, let's see if we need them. So, exit the builder and go over to our crew. So, I do have extra crew. I've been putting them in spots that I don't really need them. So, we'll unassign crew from anywhere we don't need extra crew. And, yeah, it looks like we have enough crew that we don't need any more. So, now everything's at 100% efficiency. But I could hire more crew if I wanted to. And to get more crew slots, it's pretty simple. So if I go into the builder, I just go to the crew quarters. And let's give ourselves the appearance of like a little bit of a bridge here. So I am going to... Yeah, that's probably fine. But I'm going to make it wider. Like maybe something like that. And there we go. So that's going to be our quote-unquote bridge. And it gave us some more crew quarters. So we've got a total of 17, whereas I think we had something like 14 before, so they gave me 3 extra crew slots. Alright, so we've gone through the building mechanics. And now let's go and hire some more crew. So you can see how that works. Also, my ship's going to get slowed down as I weigh myself down. Oh, before I forget, I do have to set up my weapons. So you have to assign them to a weapons group. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to assign all of the guns to 1 and the mining turret to 2. And let us move over to a station. So the station should be right there. And again, I'm going to have to dock with it to be able to hire any crew. All right. So let's go ahead and dock. Now again, this can be a little bit confusing here. You see the docks. You have to figure out exactly where they are. So there we go. Now we can interact. And to hire more crew, we just go to hire crew. And I don't remember how many we need, but let's say we hired 3. I think that, I mean, we have space for 3. Let's hire 3. And we should be. We look at our crew slots. Not sure if it shows it here. Crew quarters 17. How many crew do we have? Oh, well. So we can assign crew to some spots to give ourselves boosts. But I don't know what proportion you need. And then you do hit a point where you have to start getting officers to be able to fit so many crew members on. And if we get to that point... Ooh, actually, I didn't want to assign there. I wanted to assign in the guns. It will give me a message that says you can't hire any more until you hire sergeants. Of course, that's kind of obscured by the window that you have on top of it, because the message comes out on this screen. All right, so now we have more weapons. Let's go out into the world. So I have a couple different methods of traveling. Method number one, I can go to a warp gate like this. You just drive into it, and wherever the warp gate goes, that's where you end up. And the other method I can use is I can go on my map, and I can jump myself. So the warp gates are these purple lines here. And if you drive into one, that's where you're going to end up, is the line goes here. So I did jump through one. Now, it does cost some money to do that. Or I could hyperspace jump myself. So let's say we want to go over, and all these green objects are locations you can go to that you haven't explored. So let's say we want to go over to one of these green items over here. Well, to do that, I can only jump within the radius I have right now. I'm assuming you can expand this at some point. Let's say I click here, enter coordinates into navigation, and then now that I have that, I exit the map, and I have to find my nav point, which is going to show in an arrow. I face that nav point, and now we have jump route calculated, and I should just be able to hit spacebar, and we jump. And then we have a load screen, and we're there. Now, because I jumped into the middle of nowhere, you're going to see there's nothing around. We just have more or less a skybox. So once my jump drive can go again, which we can see at the top, in the center there, we have a timer counting down. That is my jump timer, so once that expires, we can jump again. So we should be able to reach this green indicator here. So again, enter coordinates into navigation computer. We exit out, point ourselves towards the jump point. We wait until the calculation is done. It's done, so we can jump. And there we go. So now we're at a new location, and we already have enemy here. So it is just a ship. We can't interact with them, so if I press F, so we can talk to them, we can ask them to give me all their cargo, or ask them some information. So let's say we say, where is your home sector? Okay, well, that's interesting. And we could ask them for their cargo. I don't know if they'd give it to me. Let's be a little bit of a pirate here. So, oh, you know what? I just noticed that we don't have any power. Hold on. We're going to have to allocate some things. So, obviously, the weapons that I did were a little bit too much. So, we need more power because we've drained our batteries. When you have no power like this, you've drained your batteries, you can't do anything. So, if I select my guns... Oh... I guess I'm wrong. I thought it causes systems to fail. At least that's how it was explained to me. But we still don't want that. I don't think that's a good thing to have no energy. So let's go into our systems here. I don't know if we need this scanner. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. Let's get rid of the scanner. That should help with power to some extent. Okay, so that guy already left, so there's not like we can do anything there. But as you can see... pretty empty. We just have a jump gate, and that's pretty much it. Matter of fact, I'm looking around. There's a way to look around without moving your ship. Let me do that. So we've just got 2 jump gates. That's all that's here. So that is a problem I've seen with the game. Now, I haven't explored it that much, but it seems like it's fairly empty. We do have a little green indicator here. Let's jump over there. But I still need to take care of this power situation, because... We're off the charts right now with that. And I don't have any more titanium, so I can't get a generator. So it looks like I'm going to have to go back to the old hat of solar generators. And I'm kind of running out of places to put solar generators. I guess I could... or solar panels. I guess I could extend out my little wings here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to make it narrow. And now the one thing, when you increase the width of something, it does that from the central point. It doesn't do that. So it kind of like expands out on both ends. You know what? We probably should have turned on. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's turn on the mirroring. So x-axis, so we don't have to do this twice. And this will give me a little bit of power. I don't know enough to mitigate the problem. Also, I am not keeping things the same color here, so I believe this is the color I was going with. So let's change the color. And that is not the right color either. Or is this? Or any of the armor blocks that we put in. There we go. All right, so let's see the difference. So now we're not consuming quite so much energy, and we can move around freely. Now, as far as I can tell, actually doing things in space doesn't really make that energy bar move at all. Except for one exception. I can boost, which will consume a lot of energy. So you can see the energy bar is filling up, and this is me traveling at a faster rate than normal. All right, so right now we're just gonna jump, go over to that one point, see what's there. And looks like there's at least something here. We've got some space stations. So it's a metal mine. So more than likely I could buy whatever resource it's mining. And what do we have here? An asteroid. Now I'm assuming it has iron in it because it looks like it has iron in it. I have not really seen any resource other than iron so far. So it appears that iron is obviously abundant and other resources are a little bit more rare, but unfortunately it seems like to do even some basic ship functions, you need those more rare resources, which is kind of the grindy nature of the game. You have to do a lot of exploration and find these rarer resources to build anything beyond just the iron resources that you start with. Oh wow, that glare. So in any case, I think that more or less showcases the game. It does have some promise and it is in early access, but honestly, I have a lot of things that I feel like need a lot of improvement. First off, there needs to be better tutorials than there already is. There needs to be, the user interface needs a lot of improvement so that it is more easy to utilize. And then outside of that, I can see some problems with just seemingly not a whole lot interesting things to do. I mean, even the combat itself is really not all that interesting because it's very straightforward. You line up on something and you just fire away. And as much as you can move around, I don't really see the advantage of that. It seems like you just kind of stand and trade. As a matter of fact, I think I've weighed my ship down quite a bit so that it's not as maneuverable as it once was. Probably the armor blocks have a lot to do with that. But you really quickly hit a cap where you can't build your ship up all that much more because you don't have the power. And with iron, the most abundant resource, you can't really produce any energy outside of these solar panels, which they need to be, rather bulky on your ship to get any amount of power. And if you're like me and you're trying to go with some kind of aesthetic with your ship, you're not trying to build one of these uglier ships that's just a box or this big long pole. I mean, I think it can be kind of tricky. Let's take a look at this ship over here. I mean, this ship is more or less a couple boxes with some poles sticking off of it. I don't even know what those antennae do. It does look much more like a ship than some of those other ships that we saw earlier. Yeah, that's not too bad looking, in my opinion. Looks kind of interesting. In any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.